weirdest pets, so of course I found a website that sells them as a live bait for fishing. Yeah, literally nobody buys these as pets. I think I'm literally gonna be the first person in the world, which means I'm gonna get to show off the crazy unseen abilities of these guys. So hey, let's just check this thing out. And after a couple of days, a truck dropped off the package at my house so I could finally check them out. Here we go, bloodworms. Even as an animal expert, I am like pretty spooked about these. But anyways, let's just check them out. Underneath all the packing material were the bloodworms. So using some tweezers, I carefully removed one to take a closer look. And yup, this is a bloodworm. You can see that they are absolutely disgusting looking, and their mouth is even able to extend out of their body like an alien. But at the end of this part that expands are their venomous fangs, which they use to latch onto stuff like shrimp in the ocean, which I'll be showing off very soon. Now, one thing though, I actually bought 12 of these bloodworms that I'm gonna have to keep all in the same aquarium. So yeah, this is gonna be a nightmare. Now for the build, I'm gonna put in some aqua soil and a dirt mix. Eventually, we're gonna completely fill it with water because that's how bloodworms live in the wild. But for now, I just put a tiny bit of water in to keep the dirt nice and moisty. But I've already run into the first problem because I don't think I was supposed to add the water straight to the dirt. It kind of made it a weird consistency. And the water is just straight up black. So yeah, I drained the water, scooped out the dirt, and I washed it off in the sink. Then I put the soil back in, covered it in a thin layer of sand, and added the water back. As you can see now, the water stays fantastically clear. Nice. This mound here in the middle will be where I build all the decorations, and I'll even be putting in some red plants, and then finally filling it all up with water. First of all, let's get some pieces of wood in here. And I thought this design of multiple of these burnt looking ones coming from the middle looked pretty nice. I didn't want them sticking out the top though, so I broke off all those extra pieces and planted them in the sand below to give the whole wood structure a more fuller look. Now it's time for the rocks, and you may think these are just called river rocks, but in fact, that is not true. This one on the left is actually called an elderly boulder, and this one on the right is called a black venom boulder. Now those are some cool names. Just wanted to say thank you to whoever named them. But the best rock I have is this. It's actually not a rock at all. It's actually wood. Yeah, just like what I already got in there. Yeah, it's called petrified wood, and basically millions of years ago, it was buried under the earth and turned into a rock over time. But for this wood rock back here, I've actually got a pretty cool plan. As you can see, I've got a little can of sardines, which you basically just open by pulling this. Okay, it just broke off. Okay, attempt two. Basically, you just open it like this, and inside there's some like dead fish that you eat. Now with the sardines, I actually went and put one of them under this petrified wood. I'm doing this because I want to test to see if the bloodworms have a smell ability and whether they'll be able to find the sardine under it, dig it out, and eat it. Yeah, that should be pretty fun to watch. Anyways, now I want to get some red aquatic plants in here. So I drove to Petco so I could buy some. All right, I'm at Petco and I'm hoping they got some red plants in stock today. Oh, bro, there's not a single red plant in stock. I swear they usually got them, but I guess not today, huh? Instead, I had to drive home and go buy some online. Thankfully, though, there was a ton of websites with some nice reddish plants on them, so I went and added a bunch of them to my cart. And whew, it's gonna be pretty expensive, but hey, I say it's worth it for these red plants, baby. Check out. Since I bought the one-day delivery, the next day I got the package with all of the red plants inside, so I took them all out and started to put them around random parts in the sand. Now, a few of the plants they gave me weren't actually red, they were very green, but it's okay because I was starting to like the look of how it was all coming together. I also ended up getting these red ruby crystals that I scattered along the floor of the enclosure to add a bit more red in here to match that bloodworm color, of course. But as you can probably tell, I've been keeping the two sides of this enclosure completely empty, and that's because I want to build some custom DIY builds on both sides that the 12 bloodworms will be able to interact with. First of all, on the right side, I'm going to make a little cave they can all hide in. Now, in an old video, I learned this cool trick where you get out a basket, cut a hole in the front, and cover it in rocks to make your very own cave. So I'm gonna do it again, but this time with 3 different baskets to make a triple-decker cave. So I went and cut the front of the baskets off to be the entrance. I sanded them down a bit so it wasn't as sharp, and I covered the baskets in a ton of spray foam. Cause let's be real, it wouldn't be a Terra Green video without it. And then I started to carve it out to make it look like the spray foam was the actual rocks of the cave. Anyways, here is the finished triple-decker cave. Looks good, right? right? Let's just get this thing in there just like that. May not be the prettiest decoration in the whole world, but a wise man did once tell me it's not about the looks, it's about the thought that went into it. And yeah, a lot of thought did go into this cave, okay? We can store 3 different worms in there. All right, now time for the left side's DIY build, and this time I've got something interesting. Yep, it's a food platter. Basically, I'm gonna prepare a bunch of different foods for the bloodworms. That way I'll be able to see which they like the most once I get them inside. So anyways, I drove to Walmart to do some food shopping. Okay, well, we're shopping for bloodworms today, so I came straight to the meat aisle, of course. Now, first on the shopping list was some beef. Now, if you remember, this is actually the same stuff I fed in my video where I got pet leeches. And if you saw that, you probably remember they absolutely loved it. Like, I was having trouble getting them off of it, so of course I bought some of that for the bloodworms. But I also went over to the fish aisle and decided to buy some salmon, which are a type of saltwater fish, which usually live with bloodworms in the wild, so I figured they might like to eat that. And also in that aisle, I got some shrimp because when I had never been on before and I had no idea if it was safe. Whenever I buy pets for these videos, I make sure always to have a VPN on, which is why I'm excited this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is an app and browser extension that I basically always leave running. When I'm browsing the internet and buying stuff, it makes sure all my data stays encrypted and gives me a custom IP address. The best thing about it though is not only does it keep me safe, but it's just super convenient to have because Surfshark lets me change my virtual location to anywhere in the world and lets me access movies and TV shows that are not available in the United States. Yep, I wouldn't be able to watch this movie right now since it was only available in Europe, but thanks to Surfshark, I get to have a nice relaxing movie night. Huh, Jet? Surfshark also easily lets you add other services like antiviruses that'll ensure all your devices are always kept safe. So if any of this stuff sounds useful, you can head to surfshark.com/terrorgreen and use my code to get an extra 4 months of it. The best part is it has a 30-day money-back guarantee if you don't like it. Thank you again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and now let's get this tank filled up with water and get the bloodworms inside. To do that, it meant I needed to take out the food since it would get soggy if I kept it inside. Yeah, I'll put this back in there very soon, but for now I'm just gonna store it in my fridge to keep it fresh. Now, of course, I had to start filling it up with water so the bloodworms will be able to swim around in there. But when it got to like 30% full, I kind of realized a big problem. Oh shoot, bro. I don't know how I didn't think of this, but bloodworms, they live on the beaches of oceans, and the beaches of oceans have salt water. I've been making this a freshwater tank. I've been putting fresh water in it. But it's okay, because thankfully in the corner of my garage, I just have 2 big cartons of Pacific Ocean water, sourced straight from the ocean. Don't ask why I have this, I just do. Anyways, I drained out a little bit of the fresh water and started to add in the ocean salt water. And by the time it was filled up, the salt level was 0.02, which is perfect for bloodworms. All right, all the right water parameters have been met in here, so the bloodworms are good to go in. But because I put salt water in here, it does mean the $200 on freshwater plants I spent is gonna go down the drain. Yeah, these are all about to die. Since they were all gonna die, I wanted to replace the red theme in here, so I got this heatless red lamp. As you can see, it makes the water have this red tint to it, which is cool because you gotta have the water at least look a little bit like blood when putting bloodworms inside. Now, I also need to get snails inside of here so they can eat any algae that grows. Now, luckily for me, I actually have this tank just set up with like 30 just snails in here, and they're called Nerite snails, and they're able to survive in salt water, so that's why I'm gonna choose these guys. So I got a few of those and put them inside the bloodworm tank. Once they got used to the water, a few of them came out their shells and started to move about the glass. Now, I think these guys should be safe from bloodworms because of their shells, but I'm not gonna give the 100% guarantee. So sorry guys if you get eaten by the bloodworms. Now for the final touch of this tank. What I did is I actually went and found this cool picture of a beware of the dog sign, and I went and asked AI to change it to a beware of the worm sign. Oh my gosh, look at what it generated. That is absolutely perfect. Wait, let me go print this out at the store real quick. So I printed it, attached it to a piece of cardboard to make it a sign, and there we go, a beware of worm sign. I then even went and spiced up the enclosure a little bit by splattering some red paint along the sides to make it look like blood splatters. And there we go, 100% complete bloodworm enclosure. And I guess there's only one thing to do. Let's get these bloodworms inside. Now, I'll just be starting with one, and then I'll add all the rest as I test more and more food. But yeah, let's just put this guy inside. Be free, boy. And the worm kind of just sank down to the bottom and started moving around randomly. And yeah, well, this is kind of all bloodworms do. They just wiggle about, and occasionally they'll burrow under the sand sand, which is where they spend most of their lives. And as you can see, it didn't take this guy long until he started to do just that. But I guess he got bored of the digging, because eventually he just came out and started to wiggle about again above the sand. Wait, before this guy tries to burrow under the sand again, let's get to feeding him some food, see which bloodworms like the most. And we're gonna be starting with just some little fish pellets. I'm not too sure if they're gonna eat this, but it's worth a shot. Let's put him inside. But there was a slight problem. Flashed his fangs at. I'm gonna give a 0 out of 10. He didn't even want anything to do with that. But next up, out of all of these, I think I'm gonna do some salmon. Now, I waited a little bit for him to shoot his mouth out, and when he did, I grabbed it with tweezers. Now, you can really get a good look at the fangs, and what makes these fangs so cool is they're actually made of copper. Yeah, like the metal you find underground, and they're the only animal in the world with copper teeth. Anyways, with the bloodworm, I brought it up to the third food source, which is of course beef, and after kind of like shoving his face in it, he instantly bit down with all 4 of his fangs and started to devour this piece of meat and just suck all the juices out. Wow, it took a long time for me to get a bloodworm to eat a piece of meat, but dang, that is so cool when they do grab on, because look, I'm shaking it, like literally it doesn't want to come off. It's like, I am eating this, do not take it away. So I think I'm gonna go try that same thing with the last food source, which is a shrimp. And once one of the other worms shot out their mouth, I once again grabbed it, and this time put the shrimp in front of it. He also immediately grabbed onto it, and now these 2 bloodworms were having the time of their lives eating up the food. After like an hour, I went and removed the food from them, which was pretty hard. I had to like kind of shake them off. Holy, that was actually kind of cool to watch, and it looks like you can see the little bite mark where the worm was biting. And remember, these guys are venomous, so there's literally venom just sitting on the end of this. However, I actually have one more good idea. Let me go get someone real quick. Well guys, I brought my mom in. Say hi.
Hi.
All right, come on in. Of course, I'm gonna show you a new pet. I've had leeches, but these are actually bloodworms.
Oh my gosh. Ew, look at all the little tentacles.
And yeah, actually this time right
Go.
So that purple right there, that's the mouth of the worm. And if you look very, very closely, you see those 4 little fangs on it.
Oh my gosh, that's so, this is probably the most disgusting thing yet.
I know, that's what I'm thinking, and yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Well guys, these are pet bloodworms. And yeah, you guys keep saying you like my dog, so I'm just gonna show them at the end of every video from now on. Who's your goat?